Did you ever see the sunrise from a train? This sunrise is definitely one I'll remember. I'm in Ohio now, and for the first time on this trip, it really feels like I'm far away from home. Boston is far behind me now. Almost everybody in the train is still asleep, curled up in a little nest. There's no way I'm going to sleep through this sunrise, though. I've never seen the sunrise out here in Ohio farm country, but it has to be one of the great places to watch the sun come up. If I lived here, I'd be out in one of these fields, sitting on a bale of hay maybe. About the only noise I'd want to hear is the train whistle from the Lakeshore Limited off in the distance. I love that sound. Anyway, from my little coach seat, this has to be the perfect start to the first full day of my trip. After Ohio, we'll travel across Indiana, and we should be in Chicago by 10 a.m. Then I'll have 5 hours in Chicago to be a tourist. In the afternoon, I'll get in the Southwest Chief with its double-decker coaches and sightsee a lounge car. That will be a 2-day trip out to LA. But this day will end tonight, somewhere in Kansas. The farms out here remind me of the ones in the books you read as a kid in school. The red barns with the picturesque silos, just like that one. Maybe old MacDonald lives there. These farms are big. They make the farms back home in New England look quaint by comparison. It seems like the further west we go, the bigger the farms become, and we're only in Ohio. Can you hear the train whistle? So did I sleep well on the first night out? I didn't really fall asleep until after midnight, after Buffalo, and I woke up in Erie, Cleveland, and Sandusky. By Toledo, I was wide awake and ready for the sunrise. I'm good to go now. Not too many people get up early on the train. It's pretty quiet now, and that's just how I like to watch the sunrise. This stretch of rail is very busy. You can see there are 4 tracks here to make way for all the freight that moves along this route. When you travel across the country by rail, you'll see lots of freight trains. Long, long freight trains. I just took a walk through 6 coach cars up to the cafe car for my first cup of coffee, and we're really moving at top speed now, so I'm glad I have my sea legs. 2 of the coach cars are all Boston passengers, and 4 are all New York. It's not hard to tell which car you're on. Just look for the Yankee hats or the Red Sox hats. We just passed under North 3rd Street in Goshen, Indiana, and this is definitely what I'd call everyday America. We're in America's heartland now. Lots of little houses here, and most of them built a long time ago and laid out in a tight grid. No McMansions here. You got your porch, your backyard, and a driveway. And I like these backyards. Millions of Americans grew up in places just like this, where your friends were from the neighborhood and you knew your neighbors. You walked up to school together and played in each other's yards and rode your bikes along streets just like these. It was a good place to grow up. When I said we would see America's backyard, I wasn't kidding. This is the Goshen Sewage Treatment Plant. Every town's gotta have one. pretty typical commercial strip that you see all across America. It's a combination of local shops and retail chains, with all the ones you'd expect. Ooh, look, another Family Dollar. Welcome to South Bend. When I think of South Bend, I think of Notre Dame, but the university is on the other side of the tracks. I can't see it from my window. We're less than 100 miles from Chicago now. This is Whiting, Indiana, and that's the high school football stadium. Now that's what I call Americana. Hey, what time is the game on Friday night? All rails lead to Chicago, at least it seems that way. These are gigantic rail yards leading to Union Station. It's the railroad hub of North America, and it's definitely an Amtrak hub. Most Amtrak long-distance trains start and end in Chicago's Union Station. The Lakeshore Limited, the City of New Orleans, the Empire Builder, the Southwest Chief, and so on. The ride into any big city downtown rail station can be gritty, but the ride into Chicago is in a class by itself. You pass through some of the poorest and most dangerous neighborhoods in America. You see industry that's both the lifeblood of our country, and you see industry that's been devastated as if it were bombed out and left for dead. The 20 miles of track leading to Chicago will have your eyes glued to the window, and I now know why they call Chicago the city of broad shoulders. Hello, Chicago. From South Station to Union Station, it's been 22 hours now. Time to gather up my stuff and see what kind of town Chicago is. But first, I'm going upstairs to see Union Station. Of all the great railroad stations in America, this one is the most impressive. Sitting here in the Great Hall makes me feel like I'm sitting in one of the world's great cathedrals. What a great time I had in Chicago. I was going nonstop for 5 hours from Union Station to Michigan Avenue, down to the river, State Street, and everywhere in between. And I'm exhausted now, but I'm on the Southwest Chief. For the next 2 days, this will be my home. I can now change into some comfortable clothes and just sit back, relax, and look forward to some of the most incredible scenery as we travel across the American West. The Southwest Chief runs between Chicago and LA, and the history of this train goes all the way back to the Super Chief of 1936. We'll travel 2,264 miles to reach LA's Union Station, and along the way we'll pass through Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and finally Southern California. Much of the view out the window will look almost exactly as it did in 1936, although the Southwest Chief is a bit more comfortable. The Southwest Chief is a big train. It has 3 double-decker coach cars, 2 sleeper cars, a dining car where you can sit down to a full-service meal, and the sightseer lounge car. The coach seats where I'll sit are just like the Lakeshore Limited, but you can sit on either the lower level or the upper level. I always sit in the upper level. I feel like you get a slightly better view up there. Restrooms are downstairs, and whether you got your sea legs or not, always hold on to the railing when you're on the stairs. You never know when you'll hit a bump in the rail. There are a couple of big restrooms and even more of the smaller variety. Emphasis on the word small. And here's a tip for the guys. If you plan to shave and you're not using an electric razor, either be very careful or pack some extra Band-Aids. I'm always very careful. Anyway, the Sightseer Lounge car is where I'll spend most of my time for the next 2 days. This is where I'll eat, meet other passengers, and take in the stunning views. The cafe is downstairs where you can get your coffee, sandwiches, and snacks. I do recommend the Angus cheeseburger. There are tables to sit at on both levels when you're eating, and comfortable seats facing the windows if you're just having a cup of coffee. For me, there's no better place to relax with a cup of coffee than right here. The lounge car is usually a friendly place to be. It's not hard to strike up a conversation with other passengers there. Everybody is excited to be traveling across the country and in a good mood. You often meet local people who know the lay of the land or people who have traveled across the country by train many times before. They're almost always ready to chat with you and give you some insight or some local color. You also meet people from other countries who are seeing America up close for the first time. I've met some memorable people here. We're in Illinois still, and this is farm country, big-time industrial farm country. Farms as far as the eye can see. Look at those perfect rows of corn there going straight off into the horizon, and I can only see a few miles off on either side of the train. Imagine how far off in the distance these farms go. Miles and miles. This small town is Arlington, Illinois, and less than 200 people live here. We just crossed Main Street, and that's St. Patrick's Church on, what else, Church Street. You pass through many of these small farm towns as you travel across the Midwest. Getting late in the day, but a farmer's work is never done. Well, the first full day of my trip is coming to a close, and I'm relaxing with a cup of coffee in the lounge car. What a day it's been. Off to Lakeshore Limited and on to the Southwest Chief with a great stop in Chicago. We'll stop in Kansas City shortly for about an hour, and then I'll ride across Kansas all through the night, from one end to the other. We'll be in Colorado tomorrow when the sun comes up. I'm 1,300 miles down and thousands more to go.